Because we're here to talk about B2B marketing. It doesn't get any more exciting than that, right? We're all okay, perfect. I'm going to start with a really important question here. Please shout out your answer. Don't worry about raising your hand. Ladies and gentlemen, what does B2B stand for?
Business to business.
No, I didn't. Sorry. It's boring to boring, which is my experience as a B2B marketing leader for the last 15 years. For most companies, at least, thankfully not the organization I'm at and a lot of the companies that I work with, because we really are going through what I think to be a really exciting revolution in the world of business-to-business marketing. We are seeing organizations figure out that it is just as important as it is in the B2C world to build meaningful connections with our audiences, and perhaps most importantly, which many of us have missed for so many years now, is the importance of marketing the way that people actually want to learn and buy, as opposed to marketing the way that we want to market. And I'm sure many of you know what I'm talking about. We always fall into that trap. How do we do things? What do I need as a marketer? Very frequently, those don't line up with what people actually want to do as an individual. And that's a big change that I'm starting to see the industry wrap its head around. There's a number of things happening that are fueling what I think is going to be a really big shift in how we approach B2B marketing. And I'm going to talk about 5 of those trends here in this session. Now, a little bit more about myself, just so you have the context of where it is that I'm coming from my perspective. First of all, as mentioned, I'm VP Marketing at Vidyard. We are based just down the road in Kitchener, Ontario. I am a proud native Waterloonie from just down the road. And I have been 10 years at BlackBerry, a few years at a startup here in Toronto called Fixmo. And I just crossed my 8-year anniversary at Vidyard. We are a video technology company. We provide video hosting, management, and analytics, largely for B2B organizations, as well as tools for video messaging and video selling. And as part of my life there, I've had an opportunity to see what a lot of different businesses are doing with things like video content, which has started to become more and more a core part of B2B marketing, finally, as we think about how we're actually creating emotional connections with audiences. So I'm going to weave some of that experience in as we talk, to give you a sense of what I'm seeing from there. Secondly, as an extension to my life at Vidyard, about 8 months ago, I launched the Sales Feed Media Network, which is a brand extension to Vidyard for our key audience, one of the key audiences that we target, salespeople. And I'm going to talk a little bit throughout this of some of the experiences we've had here, because launching a media network as a B2B marketing team that has a completely separate brand from our business, well, first of all, is very risky. And I'm not yet sure if I will still be at Vidyard 4 months from now when that 1 year hits, but I sure as heck hope so, because the results have been really, really interesting. And I think it says a lot about where we can go in B2B. And finally, I have written a book, co-authored a book called The Visual Sale, which is all about how businesses are using video to accelerate both marketing and sales. And for all of you, since we are local, I actually had the ability, I had a box of books at home because we finished writing it during the pandemic. This is my first time out, as you can see from my hair. And so I brought a number of books with me, which I am happy to give out as little prizes because we are moving into our interactive part of our session. So y'all are ready? Okay, perfect. Bribery goes a long way. Okay, I need somebody here raise their hand. I want to hear some answers to this question. I want to get a couple of them. What do you all think when you think about B2B marketing, B2B marketers? What are B2B marketers? It almost seems like they're addicted to. What do they do that they just can't? And we're not talking about real drugs, please. We have an answer right here. All right.
They want to sell to the business instead of the person buying.
They want to sell to the business, not the. Wait a minute. There's a person at that company that's actually buying stuff. All right. We have our first book deposit here. Thank you, Sarah. And I do agree. That is something that is both an interesting thing, marketing to businesses, but there's some fun things that we can do there. But you're right, so much is lost on like, who are these real people? What are they actually trying to achieve as individuals, right? Which we really do need to fuel in. I love that one. Who else has got an idea? What do you see B2B marketers being addicted to? Yes?
Analytics. So all the Google Analytics and all of the tools to slice and dice umpteen ways, everything.
Is that a good addiction? The answer here was analytics and data. Is that a good addiction, a bad addiction, or one of those both ways? What do you think?
It can be over the top.
Yeah. It can be. It can be. We've seen this rise of marketing automation, analytics, AI to be amazing thing for B2B marketers. In some cases, also becoming a victim of its own success, because a lot of B2B marketers, in their attempt to target businesses and use the tools and automation, have been so focused on how do we scale, getting the message to as many people as possible, and then track all that data, and then make decisions, and then re-hit them with the same crappy emails that didn't work in the first place, right? Like, a lot of that has actually happened, and there's been a lot of benefit to it, but there's also been, in some cases, almost an over-digitization and too much of a dependence on pure data. Who here has an attribution model that works flawlessly? I'm glad I heard some laughs. Good, because yes, it doesn't exist, and especially in B2B marketing, where there are so many nuances to what happens out there. So we do have to come back to some gut feel in what we do. And actually, there's a few topics we're going to have on that. Any other maybe any other answers to this one? Anything else you see B2B marketers addicted to? LinkedIn. Yep. So B2B marketers. I see you follow me on LinkedIn, so I apologize for that. Using tools like LinkedIn, they're using lots of social platforms to, like, really constantly engage their audiences. And I think this is another healthy balance addiction, where there's good things happening there because B2B marketers are figuring out that not everybody is coming to your website to learn about you. You have to get out there into those channels. But I think most haven't figured out how to actually properly take advantage of those channels. And we'll talk a little bit about that, because I think what we're seeing with a lot of B2B organizations is they create some content for like some purpose, and then they go, oh, could we push this out on LinkedIn as well? And could we put it over here? And they're just like repurposing a lot of what they do. Not a lot of B2B marketing teams I know are specifically creating content for their LinkedIn audience, or for their Instagram audience, or for their TikTok audience. And you're like, wait a minute, they don't have TikTok audiences, they're B2B. Hogwash, they do have audiences that are on TikTok, and I don't care if they're selling into government or what. So those are some things, so great answers, thank you. Round of applause for our brave souls for answering this question. One of my favorite things B2B marketers are addicted to, some people in my own team are still addicted to it, starts with an F. It's a 4-letter word. Form. Those forms on our websites. I need more forms. I need people to fill out and tell me everything about themselves. I need to know if they have a pet. I need to know their maiden name for no reason at all. And by the way, those forms are actually driving more people away than they are bringing in. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, I have one more set of questions here for our lucky contestants in the audience here. I would love for, I got 3 books left, a couple of perspectives on. Let's flip the tides here. You're not a marketer anymore. You're a potential buyer. You're interacting with a B2B brand. What do you hate or love when you're interacting with a B2B brand? Well, take anything here. Yes, sir.
Jargon.
Jargon?
Jargon. It makes the process overcomplicated for no reason.
Yeah. Okay, great. So you that was a love, right? That was one of the things you love?
That's what I hate.
He hates jargon and some of that messaging, which, again, I think there's some interesting things happening to start to humanize B2B, which I think is a big thing. We should be calling it H to H, because marketing should be human to human, and we don't use jargon when we talk to humans, do we? Right here, Alex. Cold calls, love them or hate them. Alex hate cold calls. Does anybody else hate cold calls? I'm sorry, my team has probably cold called all of you if you've been anywhere near our website. And it is a reality in so much of B2B marketing, but it does suck. And one of the problems, one of the reasons that cold calling is still so prolific, is that companies haven't figured out how to actually create meaningful self-service buying experiences for their audiences, right? Cold calling will not go away. It will be around forever, and we have to live with it, and it works for a lot of people. But an over-dependence on it causes so many problems. We have one more over here.
Some company that I've never heard of.
So many emails, probably not very relevant, probably not very well written, probably not very personalized.
Just a whole bunch of copy.
No visuals, lots of words, stuff that you just like, and then you move on, right? And it's like, why do they even bother sending it? Okay, perfect. So a lot of those tie into some really important themes here around this need to really humanize B2B, around really leveling up our game when we think about the kind of content we're putting out to our audience. Because we all succumb to a lot of these challenges. And we, often a lot of us do. We fall back on those basics of how we've done things in the past. But times are changing. The biggest thing is that audience expectations are changing, right? Like again, all of us, we know that those same old emails, those same old cold calls, that same old jargon, most people are past it. And we've got to figure out how to create these better connections. So that's a lot of what I think is fueling actually some of these trends here in the market. I'm going to show you a quick example of a company that I've worked with who made a couple small changes to their website that had an astronomical impact. And it's through that lens of them thinking about what does my site visitor really want as opposed to what do I want to do for them. So I'm going to pull up here. Does everybody here, or some people here know Marketo, marketing automation platform acquired by Adobe? Most of us know them. So a good easy example because we know what they do. This is what Marketo, I still call them Marketo, still Marketo in my heart. This is what their website looks like if you go to it, marketo.com, and it'll redirect you to this Adobe page. I know it's pretty small up here on the screen, so it'll be hard to make out. But there's something really interesting about their website as like a software B2B company. Something different from 95% of other B2B websites that I go to. And if you can't see it, I'll kind of highlight it, and then if you can't read it, I will tell you what it is. It's the fact that, oops, sorry about that, their main calls to action on this page, this is their homepage, is view a product tour. Most importantly is what it's not. It's not talk to sales. It's not book a demo. It's not could we please cold call you. And it's not can you fill out this form so we can put you into a nurture, right? They made this change about 2 to 3 years ago. It's a bit of an old example, but it's still my favorite because it was so simple. And this may not surprise any of you. When they went from talk to sales or book a demo as their main call to action to view a product tour, they saw not a 2x or a 3x, they saw over a 10x increase in the number of conversions coming through these pages on their website, right? And if you think about it, I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? Like for every 100 people that come to their website, let's say 2 of them would have clicked talk to sales, but 20 of them would say, heck yeah, if you've got a product tour, I'm into watching that. If it means I don't have to talk to a sales rep and I don't have to go through all these hoops, let's do this, right? Let's go for it. So when you click that button, what happens? Well, it actually takes you to this really lovely little demo portal. Doesn't show up too well here on the small screens, but what you'll find is there's this nice little interactive overview at the top. And then there's like 9 or more deep dive videos that you can watch and actually see what they do. It's funny that this is like brilliant in today's world of marketing, right? Just the fact that they actually let you self-serve on their website and see what they do. But it's different from almost every other B2B website I go to, right? Nobody shows you what they do. They try to do everything in their power to get you to click talk to sales. And why? Because that's how they want to market and sell. That's what their sales team expects. And it was hard for them to make this change because they knew when we do this, our sales team was going to freak out because they'd be like, where are all the leads? Where are all the people hitting talk to sales? And they said, well, if we flip this and we go, what if we could get 10x more people clicking watch a product tour? And then while they're watching these, there are opportunities for them to convert and say, yes, I'm interested in talking to somebody to learn more. And what happened? Well, you can guess the downstream impact for their sales team was hugely beneficial. So there was like 2 months of pain where sales reps were like, where are all these talk to sales leads? That's how we've always done things. But then all of a sudden they're like, these are my favorite leads. Because I actually also know that they've self-educated and they've almost self-selected. And my conversion rate on these leads are way higher. Simple idea, but wow, did it work? And the reason, again, that it worked was that they didn't build the system in the way that they want to market and sell. They built it in the way that people actually want to learn and buy. Nothing frustrates me more than when I'm on a website and I'm just like, just show me for the love. Like, please don't make me book a demo with somebody and take a half hour out of my day. I actually had a little sidebar here, but it's a fun story. My last year, about a year and a half ago, I was in the market to buy a new car. My lease was up and I had to buy something new. And it was during the pandemic, obviously. Didn't have to remind you all that. And I had a really interesting experience. My wife and I, we did all our research. We narrowed it down to like 3 different vehicles. And I filled out the forms on 3 different local dealership websites. And 2 of them, I got the usual stuff, right? Same thing we all get. It's that email that says like, hey, thanks so much for your interest. Here's a link, or call us and we'll book, 30 minutes for you to come to the dealership so we can see if we have something that you might like. And then we'll try to sell it. And, it's just like this is, right? The third dealership, though, I got an email from a fine gentleman. His name was Will Hearn. I still remember his name. And that email had this big video in it. And I saw him in it. And I could see right behind him was one of the vehicles that was one of the ones I had expressed interest in. And so, of course, I clicked the play button. And he says, hey, it's Will here at the dealership. Thanks so much for filling out the form. We actually have a vehicle on the lot that's very similar to your interest. I wanted to just quickly show it to you so you can see what it's all about. And he actually walked me through. He was using his phone to record, and he walked me over to the car, and he got in. He showed me where the USB ports were and told me a couple things he thought was I don't really like this, but I love this. And after 5 minutes, I was like, this is great. I don't even need to go to the dealership to get sold to, right? I don't have to spend an hour out of my day to drive there, to walk around, right? Do you think those other two reps even had something that met my needs? I don't know, because I didn't end up going. I was like, I'm talking to this guy. This is it. We had a couple of exchanges, and it was just this really great experience. So it's these simple little things that we can do to rethink and go how do people actually want to buy today? All right. So those are actually a couple of examples of trend number one that I want to talk about, which is friction-free buying experiences. You've all heard this, right? It's an easy thing to say. We need to make it easier for our prospects to learn and buy. Whether we're in B2C or B2B, I don't care, right? This is a universal marketing truth. The easier we can make it for people to learn and buy, the more likely they will be to engage with us, and the more likely they will be to act. I can't see any other way around it, right? It's a simple concept. But again, we continue to put up forms and talk to sales buttons and all these things that create these points of friction. So I am seeing this big renaissance in B2B marketing where people are getting serious about this and saying, how do we remove all those points of friction? Let's go through the process ourselves. Our own people in our company, our own marketers, force them to try to buy from your own company and see what happens. Tell them to mystery shop, go to the website, see how hard it is for them to actually try to buy. And find all those points of friction and say, how do we get rid of them? Right? At this point in the process, if you're thinking, geez, couldn't I just watch a video to see that instead of have to talk to sales? Make the video. If at some point you're like, how much does that cost? Oh, I got to talk to sales to find it. Put the pricing on the website, right? These are all things in our consumer life that we know, but in B2B, we're so cautious to do it. Now, some of you here are thinking there's no way we're putting pricing on our website. That's a whole other 45-minute talk that we don't have time for today. But I am telling you, not having pricing on your website is doing more harm than good, bar none. And I'm happy to have a sidebar argument about it offsite. Okay, so let me pull up a few key things about creating friction-free buying experiences. I'm just going to click through these animations. So when thinking about how to create a friction-free buying experience in the world of B2B, first of all, think about this phrase, they ask, you answer. That's actually the name of a book by my co-author of The Visual Sales. His name is Marcus Sheridan. And it's a really great book if you have a chance to get it. And it's a really simple concept, though. Are you answering the questions on your website that you know your prospects are going to have? It is such a simple idea. But again, we always hold back so much information in today's world. But the problem is, information is democratized, right? They're just going to go find it somewhere else. If you don't have the pricing on your website, they're going to go to some third-party review site and find somebody else who's probably misrepresenting your pricing, right? So it's a simple idea. What are the questions my prospects need to know? And how can I answer them openly, honestly, in a self-serve way on my website? Simple. Second one we talked about, transparent pricing, kind of ties to that. That's always a question people have. Pricing page, by the way, typically is the second most frequented page on companies' websites. It's their homepage, then their pricing page. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? Because people will start and they'll go, okay, this looks interesting. And before they actually dive in, they'll click on pricing to see, I just need to get a mental ballpark. Is this even worth thinking about? Right? There's nothing more frustrating than going to the pricing page and seeing, call us to get pricing. You're like, no, this isn't a pricing page. This is like a homework page. Forget about this. So anyway, simple idea. And finally, this notion of using video to show and tell throughout the buying journey. And I gave you that example of Marketo in the last one. The reason that they didn't have a bunch of articles about their product, because they knew that if somebody could see it, they could understand it, they could learn about it, and they could trust it. And video has this great place to play all throughout the buying journey. And again, I've seen tons of great examples of how companies are doing that, but it's a great way to allow people to self-serve, but still give you the opportunity to show them what you do in a meaningful way. And so think about all those points in that self-serve journey. How could a video help explain this idea better? How could it show something more clearly? How could it bring this story to life, right? If you've still got your customer testimonials page is just a bunch of quotes with numbers and stats, get out there, right? Like get that real person on camera. Get them to tell their story. Put their passion into it, right? These are real people. It's what you said earlier, right? We're still trying to sell to the business. We're not trying to sell to the individuals. The individuals relate to other people, right? They don't relate to this company had 80% lift and blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, that's Stephanie. She has the same job title as me at that company. And she got a promotion because of what that company did for them. I want a promotion too. I want to be like Stephanie, who I just watched in that video. Anyway, you get it. So all these things that you can do to create these kinds of experiences. And we've just shied away from it as B2B marketers for a long time for a few reasons. But all of these things are easier to do than ever. And there is a ton of proof out there to validate that when you put these things into practice, buyers will more likely move through the process and end up ultimately converting. And again, it's frightening for sales teams. But once they start getting those more educated leads, this stuff really works. And the reason this stuff is so important right now, in addition to people just changing the way they want to buy, well, I guess tied to that is the good old stat, what percentage of the buying journey now happens before anybody even reaches out to sales? Does anybody know what percentage of the journey used to be? What do you got?
70%.
70? Yeah, it's somewhere between 70 to 80%, depending on which analyst firm you read. But 70 to 80% of the buying journey has already happened before somebody does click that talk to sales button somewhere. So that's why this stuff is more and more important. We've got to put ourselves out there and let people self-serve. Okay, so that's an area that you can all think about and come up with some ideas for your own organization. The second one, and this gets me really fired up these days, is not just that friction-free learning experience, but actually delivering friction-free product or service experiences. Now, I appreciate not all of you are representing software products or things like that, but think about in your own world how this might apply. So in my world, as a software SaaS organization, this is called product-led growth, or PLG. The idea of product-led growth is, in today's world, again, people expect to be able to just try things. They don't expect to have to go through a 6-month sales cycle before they can actually try it and prove it if it works. Right? We're in the world of apps. People are like, just let me try it. Let me get a free version. Let me see if it's good. And if it is, I'll pay for it. It's the same thing in enterprise software. I was going to say, like, unless you're selling a massive CRM or something, but even that's not true, right? You can go start with HubSpot for free. See if it works. And if it does, eventually you'll grow with it and they'll turn you into a paying customer. Right? That's the expectation of today's buyers. Again, I don't care what it is that you're selling. Even if you're a services organization, right? Your product-led growth strategy is free consultations or whatever it happens to be. But it's this no friction way for people to get experience with the actual product you're offering. And again, it's not rocket science. Like we'd all be like, yeah, of course people would want to try the product before they move forward with things. But it's not something that we've really woven into B2B marketing and product in the past. And this isn't just a marketing initiative, of course, but I think marketers need to lead this charge. Because if your prospects don't have an easy way to try your products or services, it makes it a lot harder for you as a marketer to generate well-qualified leads. And in our experience, our best prospects are ones that we actually drive to just start trying our product. And then we actually track behind the scenes. A lot of our data and metrics are no longer how many forms did they fill out, how many emails did they click. It's did they start using the product and how many times have they used it? And how many people in that company are also using it? And we look for cohorts of free users. And now we send those to our sales team. And our sales team says, this cohort of 5 people at Scotiabank is a way better lead for us than the webinar attendee over here, right? Now, the webinar attendee is good, but what I'm going to do as a marketer is I'm going to try to get that webinar attendee to try out the free product. And once they try out the free product, then our sales team will talk to them, right? It's this different dynamic in terms of how we can engage audiences. Now, again, some of you will have products or services that may not work for. But this is a general trend that I'm seeing in the market that I think all of you need to be thinking about in one way or another. And the big part here, I mentioned on here, time to value is so important in this strategy. But the last one, which is really approaching this as an integrated strategy in your marketing team and in your business, is so, so important. right? A lot of people will think product-led growth is a product strategy, but it's not. It's a business strategy for your company. And as marketing, you could really lead the charge on what could those offers be. We know our audience. We know what they want. So what could we create for them that gives them a friction-free product experience? And now how do we make sure sales, it's tied to sales, and that it's tied to our product, and that we're all working together to create that best experience? Easier said than done. It took us a good 2 years to go from a top-down traditional enterprise software model to now the majority of our approach to market is product-led. And it took a while for the sales team to get on board. It was a long time where they were like, this free product is cannibalizing my pipeline. These people I could sell to say the free product is good enough. But once we started to stitch things together and give the sales team the signals saying, hey, this person's used the product. They just made 10 videos. They did this. Then they're like, oh, this is a gold mine. These leads are way better. And so now they're on board. But it takes a little while to get there. But again, something that you need to think about early on. So this is a big part, I think, to the future of B2B marketing in a lot of different industries. Not all, but a lot it will be. And of course, this ties very closely to number one, right? And you get this sense of like, hey, if somebody can learn about what you do, they can sign up for it, they can start using it, right? They can go through that whole process without ever having to click that talk to sales button. It's really, really powerful. And when they're talking to sales is once they've gone through that 80 to 90% of their buying journey already. Okay, let's move into trend number 3. Trend number 3 is what I think of as, in the world of at least B2B marketing, this next wave or next generation of content marketing, inbound marketing, and what we're doing with media and media content. And when I say media here, I'm not just talking about digital media as in ads and things like that. I'm talking about the media content we're creating as a B2B marketing team. Now, most B2B marketing teams have internal content teams. They're creating blog posts. They're creating ebooks. They might be creating videos, podcasts. They might be creating content for their social channels, right? They may be savvy enough to have people that are creating dedicated content for LinkedIn or TikTok or Twitter or other channels. And no longer are those content teams, it's not good enough that they're just blog writers and SEO experts anymore, right? The world of content has changed. So a lot of content teams they're making podcasts, right? They're doing a lot more video and they're doing a lot more short form social content because that's where a lot of the market is moving to consuming information. And that actually gets me really fired up because now the opportunity for the content you create isn't just, hey, I'm trying to get an inbound lead based on this keyword and then convert them to talk to sales. Now what I'm doing is I'm actually creating resonant content. Like I'm creating stuff that people actually want to listen to and watch. And is so good that they're going to refer it to other people, right? Like who does content that well? Like real media companies do, right? Well, we can all be that in our own niche, right? We don't have to be Netflix. We don't have to be a broad media company, but we need to think like media companies for our specific audiences. And it's starting to happen in this world because, again, preferences of people are changing. They do want to, as they're learning, especially the younger generation, as they're learning about companies or products and services, they're passively listening to podcasts about those topics, right? They're going to YouTube channels and they're searching over there. Some of them, again, are on TikTok getting this content fed to them. And they're going, oh, that's a cool idea. Who is that? What is that company? What's going on over there, right? These things are changing in terms of how they're consuming content, and we need to keep up with it as marketing organizations. So a few things here, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples of things that we've been doing that I get really excited about as a reference and some inspiration. But I think as you think about content and media in the world of B2B marketing, one of the big important factors now is just focusing on this idea of resonance with my audience. I think resonance is a term we don't use enough in marketing, especially in B2B marketing. We think about how to personalize something. We think about how to try to make it relevant. But if you actually use that word and you say, is what we're creating, how likely is that to truly resonate with our audience? Right? When you think about resonance, it's not just, is it relevant to them? Is it contextually the right kind of content? But is it the right format? Right? Is it something that's actually going to spark an emotional connection and make them go, oh, this, yeah, they get me, right? That's so hard to do with written blog posts. So hard, right? Even harder with 85-page white papers. I've never read an 85-page white paper. I'll just end that statement there, because I've never read an 85-page white paper or a 15-page white paper. But I've watched 1 to 2 minute videos pretty consistently, my day-to-day. I've listened to podcast episodes, right? And a lot of people are doing that sort of thing. So think about resonance. Shorter form content continues to drive a lot of success in marketing. We know this from a lot of the things that we do. It's not to say that long form content isn't important, especially for search and SEO, but short form content, particularly for social channels, most B2B marketers still haven't figured it out, right? They really haven't. If I see another post in my LinkedIn feed of, oh, it's a 45-minute webinar, but we cut it down to 15 minutes for you on LinkedIn, I'll be like, give me a break. Like, I'm not here blocking 30 minutes in my calendar, right? But if you can give me a little 2-minute soundbite of like, oh, that's a great nugget, that's the best piece right there, I'll take that, right? So more and more we need to think about that. How are we addressing people in their current expectation of how they're consuming content? Long form still important, but short form more and more and more important. And I can tell you, as a parent of teenagers, it will be more and more and more important. How many of you are on TikTok? Like, be honest here. How many of you have TikTok accounts? I'm not saying how many of you post TikTok, but how many of you are on there watching stuff? We've got a professional TikToker at the back of the room here. Do you want to shout out your handle? We could all follow you? No. Okay. Well, we'll follow up on that afterwards. We'll send it out to everybody. No, but I ask because as a parent and as a marketer, I'm fascinated by TikTok. It is an incredible platform that is like changing the consumption habits of the entire next generation. It's frightening. Like, it really is frightening in many ways. I mean, my kids can't pay attention to me for more than 15 seconds anymore because they're like, Dad, I'm on to something else here. Like, that's what it's creating. But that's the reality that we're living in. And the cool thing about a platform like TikTok, I'm not going to talk too much about TikTok, but is that people are figuring out, how can I create short content that's so good that people will watch it 3 times? Like, your target on a platform like that isn't 80% viewership, it's 300% viewership. You want everybody who watches it to go, I got to see that again, or I got to pause that, and then I got to send this to somebody else, and I got to comment on it, right? Like, that's powerful content. It's pretty wild. We're not, fully there yet, most B2B companies. I'm not telling you stop everything else and just get on TikTok, but things like that should be inspiring your next wave of how you create content and media for your audience. Now, I want to give you a quick example. My team has been doing some of this. Again, we sell to marketing and sales organizations. We're a pure B2B SaaS company. But I mentioned earlier that we launched this media extension to our brand called, sorry about that, hold on a second here, called Sales Feed. And this has been a really fun experiment over the last 8 months, where we stepped back and we said, for our audience, our target audience of salespeople, what do we think they not only want or need, but what do they deserve in terms of content and media and ideas and information? What is it that would really resonate with that audience beyond just what we do, right? Like, we talk about video selling and video messaging as our business, but we really want to take that audience-centric approach. And we said, for salespeople, whether or not they want to hear about video, I don't care. How do we become a continuous brand for them? Somebody that they're constantly engaging with, right? Whether or not they care about what we do today. And we said, well, the sales audience, there's all these things that they care about. We talked to a lot of people. We did some research, and we found that, we found this white space where we found a lot of salespeople love, in our case, it was they all follow different sales humor accounts, basically memes, like, the universal language, right? Memes. But we found, like, everybody I talked to, they're like, yeah, I do this and that, but I'm like, but every day I check out the meme channel. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. We also found that most of them preferred short form content that was pushed out on social. They're not the kinds of people to go attend an hour-long webinar or go to a long blog. And we actually found this interesting, like, white space where there weren't a lot of people in our market doing short form, high value content. And there was almost nobody doing entertainment for salespeople. So we're like, that's it. So we brought those things together. We launched Sales Feed. We said, we're going to invest in creating content that's fast, that's fun, that's fresh, to help you live a better life in sales. And we built up a small team of people that just focus on this as this media brand. And it's been a really fascinating exercise. This is our YouTube channel that you're seeing up here. And you can just see from the thumbnail images, we're creating this content for our YouTube channel. This isn't like we make it over here and we shove it up there, right? The thumbnail images, the styles of the videos is 100% for a sales audience that's on YouTube looking for information. And it's done in a really fun, personal way that really gets people excited. In about 8 months, we just crossed over the 1,000 subscriber mark, which is not bad, not bad. In the world of YouTube subscribers, for a niche audience, it's actually pretty darn good. And this has been a really interesting exercise to focus on what does our audience care about and need, and how can we produce it in a consistent way. But these people now, right, we're seeing continuous engagement in the content. Lots of our videos are thousands and thousands of views, and it's bringing in new audiences. This is our, this is an example of like a style of one of the videos. One of our most successful videos in there is we knew salespeople, despite us hating cold calls, they love to know what's a good cold call opener, right? So we made this great video where we interviewed 8 different experts, but they're not like buttoned up in suit and jacket sitting in a boardroom, right? They're like really conversational, like what's your go-to cold call opener? And they're all like, oh man, good question. And you see the reaction shots, and it's just this really fun, engaging thing. And I mean, this stuff is working out incredibly well. And our audience loves it, and people love to participate in it because it's this really fun, engaging content that's not tied to our brand. They don't feel dirty doing it, right? They're not like, yeah, okay, I'll do a Vidyard video with you, and as long as you pay me. We're like, no, this is Sales Feed. This is this whole other thing. This is like this awesome platform that you need to be on. And I actually get people all the time now messaging me saying like, hey, how can I get on Sales Feed? Like, how can I do content with you? It's really cool. It's because we have that media mentality, not the content mentality. This is our TikTok channel. We went from 0 to 43,000 followers in the last 8 months, which is amazing. Now, I have no idea who these people are. I'll be honest with you. On TikTok, I don't know who they are. But all of our content is stuff that is really only relatable to salespeople. And we hashtag the heck out of it to make sure we're finding people that care about sales. And all the comments are people that are like, oh my gosh, I can so relate to this, right? And like half the videos are just ridiculousness because that's what people want on TikTok. Half of them are educational. You can actually see on the right-hand side, our 2 top performing videos. One of them is at 928,000 views and the other one is 400,000. The first one is an educational one. It's called Sales Help Desk. It's like a 1 minute or less video where somebody has a question about sales, so he does a mock call, and he says, Sales Help Desk, how can I help you? And then you hear the question, and then he gives a good answer, right, to teach you something. And it's pure education, right? It's a little bit fun. He's always got a different Tim Hortons thing in front of him, right? There's little things that we do to make it more interesting, but it's simple, but it's educational, right? It's not just all dancing and stuff on TikTok. The one on the right, it's kind of hidden behind the thing, but I have a fake mustache that I wear in some of these videos to be absolutely ridiculous. And that's a total humor-based video called Objection Handling 101, where I do really bad objection handling of different objections that customers give. But it's this interesting balance between helpful and humorous content. Now, I'm not saying you all need to go out and hire comedians and start making humor-based content. But I'll tell you, back to the earlier point of like, we're marketing to people, not to companies. Who here doesn't like to laugh? Anyone? Anybody here not like to laugh? Right? We've found time and again, people come for the laughs and they stay for the learns. That's actually like our motto now. We're like, everything we do is like laugh and learn. You either come for the laugh, you stay for the learn, or you come for the learn and then you find the laughs and you go off on your little rabbit hole of like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous and awesome. So again, this is just one example that's been really interesting for us, but hopefully it inspires you with some ideas of like B2B doesn't have to be boring to boring, because think about what's actually going to be resonating with these people. The last thing that I'll share on this one, because I'll always get the question, especially from my CEO, how do you actually convert these people? If you're in this separate brand called Sales Feed, you're on TikTok, YouTube, where you don't know who these people are, you're not charging for it. How much money are you costing me, Tyler? And I say, well, I'm costing you some money, I'm not going to lie. But all of those people, we're always trying to now get them to subscribe to the Sales Feed newsletter. And it's a weekly newsletter that puts the best of our Sales Feed content in your inbox once a week. And if you look on the right-hand side in that newsletter at the bottom, you can't quite see it, it's a little bit too small, but there's always a Vidyard promo in that newsletter that says, Sales Feed's brought to you by the fine folks at Vidyard. If you're not using video in your sales yet, sign up right now with promo code FEEDME and get 3 months free, right? That ties back to our product-led growth strategy. We say, if I can get these people out there to consume my out there content, and then they get awareness of the Vidyard brand and go, okay, this is interesting. And they go, oh, I can just try it for free. That's cool. And now all of a sudden they try it for free. And they send it out to 3 other people in their office and they try it for free. Now all of a sudden I've got an account that I can pass over to my sales team, right? So it's been this really interesting thing to play out and kind of see these different conversion paths coming in by really engaging with people the way we think they want to be engaged with. Okay, I'll park that there. I have the link to sales feed if you want to go and check it out just for inspiration. Please don't judge me and my mustache, but there's some pretty funny content there. Okay, 2 more quick things before I wrap. The 4th trend that I also get really excited about is influencer marketing in B2B. And I put influencer in quotes because it's a little bit different from B2C influencer marketing, in my opinion. In the world of B2B, we can absolutely go out and find people who are influencers in our communities of interest. So in our case, we're targeting marketing and sales professionals. We can go out and find people who have influence in those spaces, right? They've got big followings online, and we can pay them. We can find them directly, or there are platforms and services, maybe some here, I don't know, that will connect you with B2B influencers, not just B2C. So that stuff absolutely exists. And those people will do collaborative content with you. They'll share stuff about you in their network to try to drive people over to you. Now, this does not work well when your call to action from those influencers is, hey, check out this great white paper that this company has. Or, this company is awesome. Why don't you talk to sales? Right? It says, right? This is where all these things start to come together. But if you have a free product, if you have amazing media content, right? Like when we partner with influencers, all of our calls to action are follow sales feed, because you're going to freaking love it. And every week you're going to get something amazing in your inbox. And eventually they'll become a Vidyard customer. Or it's, they'll do a video showing oh my gosh, I just discovered this amazing new tool to make videos. Vidyard, here's how it works. You want to try it yourself? Go sign up for free right now. Here's my promo code where you can get 3 months for free, right? And so we have these really easy, but also really broadly applicable calls to action, which again, a lot of B2B marketing teams still don't have. So when your only calls to action are talk to sales or sign up for a webinar or get a white paper, your options are limited. But when you start to do some of these other things, it opens up all these new worlds for how we can engage with people. When you are, the other thing I would say in terms of influencer marketing in B2B, which absolutely is becoming more prominent, again, because people, especially the younger generation, are more interested in learning about things from people in their social feeds and people that they respect in their networks. So it is becoming more important. It will become more important. It doesn't have to be paid engagements. Most influencers we work with, we don't pay them anything. They're people that we partner with because they respect us. They like what we do. They think our content is great. We include them in our sales feed media network and expose them to our audience. And so it's a nice give and get. And they're happy to share our content on their network. Or maybe we'll do something together, right? We did a parody video. Any Peloton users here? A few Peloton users? Does anybody use the new sales service called Celoton? Where you can get sales trainers 24/7 in your home to pump you up for your next sales call. Truth stretching, things like that. Cold call squats. We did a Celoton parody commercial and we invited a bunch of influencers to be these celebrity sales trainers in this ridiculous commercial that we did for the holidays. We were like, this year buy your favorite sales rep the Celoton. Anyway, did the video crush it and get us a whole bunch? No. But these influencers loved being in it because it was great. And they were just like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. I'm going to share this with my entire network because it's content I actually love being in, right? As opposed to hey, do you want to come on a webinar with us and bore the shit out of people for 45 minutes, right? Not that webinars are bad. We do them and we should do them, but it's a different purpose. So there's, again, all these things that you can think about of how you can create these partnerships, you can leverage these voices in the market, but do so in slightly different ways. And think about what's the ideal call to action when working with influencers, and do we have that as a business? And if not, you got to make them. All right, I'm in my last 2 minutes here, so I'm going to plow through my final, which is account-based marketing. Who here is familiar with ABM? A lot of us, some of us. If you're not in B2B, maybe not. Account-based marketing, really simple fundamentally. It is the shift from saying as marketers, we generate a lead, we figure out who that person, what they're doing, and we try to target them. And we say, hey, we know that there are these businesses that are a perfect fit for what we do. And so let's market to people at those businesses and target them specifically. It's a very simple idea, but until recently, the tech to actually do that didn't exist. But it's matured now, and it's out there and we can do it. So in the world of account-based marketing, what we can do now is say, well, we know these are our top 100 target accounts. We can get predictive data from third parties to tell us, oh, of those 100, these 20 seem to be the most likely in your market right now. We can then do targeted account-based advertising. So I can advertise to people at that company. I can say, I want this ad to hit people from IBM, marketers in IBM, and it's a specific ad for IBM, right? Like we can do those sorts of things now. If you're in B2B marketing and you're not yet thinking about this, now is the time to learn the fundamentals of account-based marketing. It's a very powerful part of the platform of the future. And the really cool thing to tie these all back together is that when you pair this up with a product-led growth strategy, again, I alluded to this earlier, in our own business, that's our key for like big business growth. We're getting a bunch of free users. We're finding out what company has a lot of free people signing up. And then we use our account-based marketing platform to do ads to other people in that company to get them to sign up too. We start hitting their managers and their bosses with messages saying, hey, all these people in your team are using our tool. You should probably talk to us, right? And our sales team goes after them and does cold calls and shitty emails that sometimes convert. And all of a sudden now, the free product coupled with an account-based strategy becomes this real fire for these larger enterprise accounts that we target. It's really fascinating to see when they all stick together, how kind of automated and how much of a flywheel it can create. So I will wrap up there, and these were the 5 areas that I talked about, and I think these really do represent a really interesting new platform for B2B marketing. It's not it; there's lots of other things happening, but pairing together the friction-free buying experiences, friction-free product, new content and media, influencers, account-based marketing. It's a really fascinating world right now in B2B, and hopefully this gives you at least 1 or 2 things to think about in your own company that you may want to get up to speed on or start to think about investing further in. So with that, I will wrap up there. If any of you are interested in chatting about any more of these topics, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you want to check out what I'm doing with SalesFeed, you can go to salesfeedmedia.com, find all our social channels from there, and just follow along for your own inspiration. Maybe you'll get a laugh or learn a thing or two as well. And finally, if anybody else wants a copy of my book, I've got about 20 of them on the table over there because they've been sitting at home. I haven't gone anywhere. So I thought I'd bring them with me as I drove over. First come, first serve. They're on the back table over there for anybody that wants what it's called the visual sale about how to use video in marketing and sales in a virtual world. So with that, I will wrap up. I know we're at time. So thank you all for your time and attention. I really appreciate it.